Parent Entrepreneur Power. Conversation number 207.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? It's Mama Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. Guess who? You know who I am, right? I'm not even going to say my name again. If you don't know who I am, go look on the podcast directory and you'll find it. Anyway, hello, welcome to the show. I got to introduce you to somebody, and the reason I'm being kind of off the cuff is because this guy just brings it out in me, because I've known him now for several months, I believe. I can't tell you how many, but several months. And it's part of my whole new bot world and messenger world. And we just have way too much fun because this guy is one of two adopted digital sons that I have now. And so I can't wait to introduce you to him. His name is Thomas Hybki, and he is the director of Awesome at Yacker Bot Talk. Hey there, Thomas, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know, it's a gorgeous winter day here in Northern California. Sun is shining, and it's going to get up to about 60 degrees. How could I be anything but awesome?
Right. And just for your information, it's been 4 months and 23 days, 17 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh, see, now you know.
I have it on my phone.
See, now you know, people, why this is just going to be an amazing conversation. Okay,
I wrote it in my diary.
You wrote it in his diary.
Met
the
my
day
mom
he met
after
Mary
31 years.
The day he met his digital mom. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's because these guys are so stinking young, right? And I'm kind of old. So it just happened that way. Anyway, all right. Sure. We got to get down to business. Stop it.
Let's do it.
Just stop.
Yes,
You're just
Mom.
going to make... See? All right. Tell us your once upon a time story, right? Because everybody's going, all right, Mary, what happened to your show? It's just like, where did it go? All right, here it goes.
Yeah.
Tell us, because I was surprised from our conversations. You all of a sudden said, yeah, you've got 3 kids. And I'm like, what? When did that happen?
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
BTW.
You didn't tell me this. Do I have to pay for them or what? Anyway, so we were talking about that, and it's like, okay, I've got to get this guy on my show because we have way too much fun. But tell me how you became an entrepreneur and a parent at the same time. What's your once upon a time story?
Yeah, so I mean, this isn't a story I actually share with a lot of people because it's not like fairy tales and, butterflies and all that good stuff. But basically, when I was about 4 or 5, I'd already been in a couple of foster homes, believe it or not. And I remember distinctly sitting on the couch and realizing if I stayed where I was, like with my birth mom, I actually wasn't going to make it in life. Like my brothers
you knew
were
that
all
at like
in.
the age of 5?
Yeah, it was like a very vivid epiphany for me. It was actually kind of like, whoa, okay, because my brothers, they were into gangs or stealing or girls. I mean, it was wild. Like my older brothers, they had kids. They were into drugs. Roaming around with gangs, and I'm like, either I'm gonna join a gang and die, or I'm gonna take drugs and die, or I'm gonna, impregnate, 4 women and, basically die, because how am I gonna afford that? It wasn't like there was no light at the end of the tunnel for me. And so finally, when my dad came back around, I just felt like that was the opportunity for me to escape and get away. And that was a much saner environment because I come from a family of 9. So it's me and 8 siblings. And they all mainly stayed with my birth mom, and I mainly stayed with my dad just because it was a much saner environment, no drinking, no drugs, no crazy times, no police coming by. So that for me at a young age was like, cool. There are solutions that I can take. There's situations I can actually control and get out of situations that I don't like. And so as I grew up, it was funny because I never dated just to date. I had two girlfriends in my life, and one of them I married, which was awesome. So that was another thing
Same
that
here,
kind of,
only the opposite. I had two boyfriends and one I married. Yeah.
yeah. See, that would be kind of awkward if it was girlfriends, you know.
Hey, you never know. Could be.
Um, but anyway, so I was always like, cool, like I actually want a family. Like even as a teenager, I'm like, I want to find the one, I want to settle down, and I want to have kids because that was a really strong purpose in life. So as I moved through, my adult years, it was primarily like sales and other things, and then about a year ago or so, I was faced with a situation at work at my job where I'd already hit several, landmark achievements. I sold the largest job in the company history at $292,000. And then I beat that one, a year or so after that and sold a $652,000 job, which was awesome because it was like a $2 million company, right? So that was like a game changing order for us. And it took a long time, but it obviously worked out. And then about 3 weeks before the PO actually came in, they pulled me aside and, said, hey, we're going to actually change your commission structure. A purchase or like the commission should have been something around $50,000 for me, which would have been awesome. And it ended up being like 13, which is still good. But when you compare it to 50, it's like, okay, well, like there's 4 months just kind of flushing down the drain. So I basically like, cool, like I got myself out of the situation in my childhood. I really just need to make a decision here. And so that's kind of when I jumped into the online world because I'd already been flirting with it a lot. We'd look at each other and, like every time my wife wasn't looking, I'd be like, how you doing? I say that facetiously.
I was going to say, and you're looking at like your HD digital camera in the eye?
Yeah,
I mean, like, what are you flirting with?
How are you doing? Oh, Instagram. Like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I kind of got into the world of entrepreneurship. And then later I found the wonderful world of chatbots, and for some reason that instantly resonated with me as something I could do, something I could provide value to people. I can build them, but then I realized that there weren't a lot of voices in the chatbot world. I mean, with other online marketing, you have the Pat Flynn's, you have, the John Lee Dumases and whatnot, but the chatbot world, it was kind of silent. So I'm like, cool, I'll be the frickin' voice of chatbots. And so that's when I launched my podcast and started to get clients and just started to roll from there. And it was really exciting because the feedback has just been pretty amazing. I'm kind of odd in the sense that I don't mind hearing myself talk. Like some people are like, I hate myself, like the way I sound. I'm like, I actually like it. I'll listen to myself because as I listen, I'm learning. The inflect words or say things or carry on a conversation.
Right.
So that's a little bit long-winded, but hopefully that kind of
that's awesome. So where did the wife and kids come into that section? So you took us from 4-year-old and 5-year-old, and I've got to tell you, very few 5-year-olds that I know of. But then I haven't been in that world. Okay, so my world was very different. It had more physical abuse to it than that police and those kinds of things. So I know what that world feels like at 4 or 5. Sure. But so you took us from that world to being at your job and then deciding you wanted to flirt with online. Between those two, lots of stuff happened, and you live with your dad, and so you got some stability, and so you got some idea of being able to take a deep breath and just live instead of worrying about how you're going to survive. And so how did your wife fit into that, and when did you meet her, and how many kids, and how old? Take me there first.
So I met my wife a long time ago. I probably met her when I was like 18 or 19.
That's so long ago.
Right. Well, I'm 31 now, almost 32.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, it's like a decade more than yeah. So anyway, we were at a church function, and she was talking to a guy that was, she told me later, was hitting on her. And she had seen me a couple of times and wanted to talk to me. So I was walking by her, and she literally just, punched me in the shoulder, threw her head back and said, "Sup." And I'm like, stuff with you. So it was like love at first impact, right? So anyway, and we went on a couple of dates, and things just kicked off. She tricked me, and I use air quotes there. She tricked me into going out to lunch with her for the first time. And I was like, yeah, go ahead and trick me all you want. This is,
No problem.
I want it, you want it, let's do it. So anyway, so we started to date, and then about I don't know, a year or so into it, we were pretty open about things, and I was like, we're gonna get married, right? And she's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, cool, let's go get your ring. So, super romantic. Girls love that. I'm like, screw the knee thing.
Yeah, right. Let's just lay it out on the table. This is the way
you're
we're
a real
going.
person. I'm a real person. Let's go get the damn ring.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, so we went to the jewelry shop and, found a ring that she liked, and, they had to resize it. So I sent her off and took her where she needed to go. And then I came back and picked it up. And I kind of remember doing something a little bit more girly
Making
and
it
nice.
Official. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Got a couple of family members around and stuff. And anyway, so that was kind of nice.
Made a total fool of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I met my wife. And then, we wanted to get started fairly early on kids. And the reason for that is, I always wanted to be a parent, and being a grandparent, I'm like even looking into the future. I didn't want to be like that 60-year-old grandpa who can't even throw his grandkids in the air,
Hopefully that's more like 80 now. I mean, okay.
Well, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm like only 6 years away from that. So I better be able to throw my kids in the air or grandkids in the air in 6 years.
I mean, it's like I've always loved kids. Well, maybe not so much as a teenager, just because I didn't really know how to handle them. But I always knew I wanted them. So we got started pretty early. So I'm going to be 32 in March, and my oldest is 8, and then I have a 6-year-old, and then a 4-year-old that will be a 5-year-old boy in April. So I mean, you backtrack that. We got started when we were about 23, 24. Yeah.
Got it. Wow. Okay. So then when you said about a year or 2 years ago, you kind of so when did you officially become an online entrepreneur, or do you still have one foot in the real corporate world?
No, I don't have any feet in the corporate world anymore. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago, like officially, when I finally, like, okay, this other line of work is not working for me, and working in sales, it's, I was kind of accustomed, like, go out and, find the
make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. To get to it, So yeah, I mean, that's, and then, Yacker Bot Talk, that's, that the bot gig I have going, that's been a little bit more recent. That's since maybe September, October-ish time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So
say 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, for that specific project.
Yeah.
And then I was doing some other stuff before that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so the podcast came first, and then the clients happened.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I built some bots for myself, and realized that it was working, and I'm like, this is neat, like, let's go make some money with it now. after talking about it with people, and I interviewed several people, even yourself actually, and just it's like, hey, this is working for others, like, I want to do this too, like, let's go hunt for some people. So
fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so we got it now. So my gosh. Okay, so I've got to just say this. Thank you for that story. First off, that was an amazing once upon a time story, and I was just following along the whole way, and I have to say, it always amazes me. Out of 8 siblings, 8 other siblings, 9 kids total. And I'm just going to put this out into the universe because I've been searching for this answer forever. What made you different from those other 8 people to make you realize, first off, that you wanted something different, and then secondly, actually move in the direction of creating something different? Because I'm the same way. I have 2 siblings, and they took different paths than I did. And I've been married 35 years this May, and
congratulations.
Thank you. But we've waited for kids, and we've built and blah blah. So and that's not their path. Not that my path is, quote, better, but it definitely has been more stable. Let's put it that way. And it did
Yeah.
not include drugs or physical abuse or anything like that, like I was
Right.
raised with. What makes that? I'm just going to put it in the universe. And I don't know if you've thought, I'm sure you've thought about this. What makes you different?
Yeah, for me, like I've always looked at myself as like a facilitator, and when you look up facilitator in the dictionary, it's basically just one who makes progress easier. So even from a young age, I was like figuring things out. I was always like kind of fiddling with things or trying to help people, figure things out. And so for me, it helped that I had three older brothers, because I saw them go through a lot of different stuff, like the criminal sort of aspect of things, the drug sort of things, the getting pregnant or getting women pregnant early on. Like that was like, I was like, holy crap. And then, I kind of look back at our home family. I'm like, cool, this is actually not a viable situation for anybody. Like,
Right.
Everybody's yelling at everybody. Like we're all upset. Like this isn't a freaking like, Disney
No
movie.
happiness, no happiness here anywhere to be found.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm like, cool, like things need to change. So that, I think that for me helped to have those older brothers to kind of like impinge upon, because when you start anything new, you kind of take a couple of swings at it and you learn from your mistakes, and you kind of get into it. So I had, by the time I was 5, I had 5 years experience of like seeing how things didn't work. So that kind of helped me.
Yeah, but
make that
so
decision.
did the other. So did the other siblings.
True.
They had 5 years experience, 10 years experience of seeing what didn't work, but they still chose to follow what didn't work.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it partly comes down to the individual and their necessity level to, actually go and do something about it. Because I mean, it reminds me of that story about the guy who goes, to a gas station, and every time he goes in to pay for his gas, there's a dog on the floor that's whining. And finally, one day, the guy who's getting the gas, he asks, "Why is that dog always, kind of whimpering?" And like the gas station attendant, he's like, "Well, he's laying on a nail." And the customer is like, "Well, why doesn't he just move?" And the attendant says, "Because it doesn't hurt him enough." So I think you're kind of put in situations where the pain isn't that real. It's not that applicable to the point where you're actually wanting to do something about it. So, and I think people kind of get this, sick sort of joy out of like, oh, woe is me. Look at how bad my life is. Like when I was going to junior high, it was like good grades wasn't the competition, how fast you were or how smart you were. It was like, oh, look at how bad my life is. Like
How bad
I
my
only
parents are.
Yeah, I only got 3 hours of sleep. It's like, oh, dude, that's nothing. I've gotten 1 hour of sleep in the past 5 days. It was like a competition, of like how bad your life is. I'm
know.
like, that is so not cool. Like,
How sad is that? Yeah.
yeah, and that's what always attracted me to the entrepreneurial lifestyle. It's like cool. It's like, dude, like you start pumping your fists in the air, and you're like, I'm doing awesome. Like, look at me. Like I'm doing this for my customers. I have this many people I've helped. And you see people helping like literally hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, on like a daily basis. I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, forget the no sleep. That comes naturally with kids, but like, let's go and help some people.
And then you get so used to not having sleep that you just continue not sleeping, and then your ear is constantly listening for whatever's going on. It just becomes a way of life now. Yeah, so you might as well use your time wisely. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because when I had my first kid, like after the first couple hours, I literally could not think of what life was like without her before.
No.
Like, and it was just like after a couple hours, I'm like, this is the way it's always been, and we got the car seat, and this is how we load her, and this is now a part of our life, And it was just interesting how naturally it all kind of flowed. So when you're putting yourself in that position, it's like, I mean, you got to be willing to do the work, but it's interesting how natural these sort of things are, and how they affect your attitude and your emotions in life.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, and the same thing with entrepreneurship. I can imagine that you wouldn't even dream of going back to working for someone.
I mean, I do dream about it, only because, I mean, even now, the stability is very alluring. But then, it's like, cool. Like that's not going to make me happy. Like making that, $20-25 plus commission, that's not going to like fulfill some sort of life purpose that I have, unless I'm doing my own thing and helping people kind of like on my own, I don't know, with my own ideas and initiative and what I think is best. Because, when you're working with somebody, you kind of have to defer and default to what they need and want, versus what you feel is the best.
And also, they all of a sudden can change the commission structure on you. So all the work that you did,
Exactly.
now you get less.
Yeah, the most heartbreaking thing about that is like, when my wife finally understood like the magnitude of what that commission was going to be, she started to create with it. Like she's like, "Oh my gosh, we can do this and we can do that." And it wasn't like we're going to build an addition and we're going to get a new car. It was like, cool, like we can do this for our kids and we can do that for our family. And you know what I mean? It was like, and
take them
to
on
tell
this
her,
trip, and
yeah, it's like, and to tell her, it's like, cool, it's actually going to be $37,000 less than what we figured. It's like that totally deflated her, and that actually broke my heart more than anything else. It's like, oh my gosh, like I don't want that. Like I'm like, here I am, I'm the breadwinner of the family. Like I need to make things happen, and that was that was a slap in the face.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was not fun. Well, I mean, and I can understand that they change your commission structure after for the next commission, not for this one.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense to me. That's not cool.
Yeah,
right.
It's hashtag not cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So thank you for that, because I often wonder that same thing. What is it about me, or what is it about you, or what is it about those of us who look at that situation that we were in and we choose to do something differently when our siblings chose to follow the same path? And stay destructive. And I get it that, maybe it isn't. So maybe our pain threshold is a little lower, right? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit lower, saying this is too painful. Nope, not going here. So yeah, wow. All right. So now take me into.
I mean, it's interesting though.
Yeah.
Well, I want to kind of go onto this aside, because it's interesting, because I have 3 older brothers, and then it was me, and then I had 3 other siblings, and then it was my little brother Dale. And then my little sister Emily, and both Dale and Emily are actually very musically inclined. They're very gifted at athletes. I think Emily speaks something like 3 or 4 different languages already, and she's still a teenager. And my brother Dale, like he had 2 jobs when he wasn't in high school, and still, he's doing football and band, and he's figuring out what college he's going to. So I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean, that's like,
you paved the way. You showed them another opportunity, right?
Well, it was when I was out at my sister's wedding. He was, I don't know, 11 or something at the time, maybe younger than that. And he was walking with me, and he kind of stopped and looked at me, and he's like, "You're different from my other brothers," because I wasn't living when they were really with him,
Yeah, when he was born, yeah.
Yeah, because anyway, so that was just kind of an interesting side note as well.
So that's it. You saw and you paved the way, and you allowed for another opportunity for them, right? To see something different. What?
Yeah, exactly. Forge the path.
Yeah. That's right. Good for you. So there, if I'd had more siblings, which hopefully, no, I'm really glad that didn't happen, because, you never want to wish on to another human being suffering, right? Totally. But at least when they're there, you definitely provided another opportunity. That's fantastic. Yeah. So, okay. So now we've talked about parenting and the ages of your kids, 8 all the way down to 4, now coming up to 5. So you're through potty training, and you're through all those kinds of things. And now you're actually into the education part, and, getting them into the routine of school, and, going off to school every day, and doing the parents' nights, and, the booster clubs will be coming up, and, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they're coming. They're going to want your money. And, if they want to do band, and if they want to do sports, and, the schools don't pay for that anymore, unless even if you're in private school, they don't pay for it anymore. You still have to pay extra. So that all that's happening, and you're also building a business at the same time. So it sounds like with this bot world, just like with me, it just kind of happened. You didn't have to actually go out and find people to hire you. They kind of just landed and in front of you, and you said, "Yeah, I can do that," and you did it.
Yep.
Is that kind of how it's working right now?
Yeah, basically. I mean, I'm doing very little prospecting, and which is nice. It's kind of an on-demand service, or in-demand service rather. So the clients who are coming to me, it's like, yeah, like either I can or I can't. And if I can't, then I refer them to somebody who can, if they need some sort of crazy, integration or whatnot. I just kind of pass that on to other people. But,
to our buddy Pat, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We're actually in talks with this one person, huge network marketing company. And anyway, that's going to be a fun project once that lands. So, but I'll still have my fingers in there just to kind of, make sure everybody's kind of getting what they need and, kind of adjusting things and making it work well for everybody. So, yeah, I forget the question.
Prospecting.
Now.
You haven't had to do much prospecting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think when you become good at a particular thing, people take notice of that. Your competence kind of shines through, and then I mean, it's with anything, music, sports, really good work. Like I know this guy that does like landmark restoration and historical building restoration, and I mean he charges through the nose for that. But people call him because they just know how good he is at it, and they don't have to worry about it. They know they're not going to call him back until they need another project, but it's not going to be like, hey, you missed this.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, everyone that's listening to my voice, you already know in this podcast that I am all in this new messenger marketing world. And there are so many. So I don't remember who it was. Somebody in one of the groups, I think his name was Andy or Andrew, Andy maybe. Anyway, there was another article that I just read that now you can have a chatbot as your landing page. It's not Messenger. It's just a chatbot as your landing page so that you actually start engaging with people when they land on your landing page. And you can segment them and you can start doing all the things that we're doing in Messenger straight on your landing page, on your website. It doesn't have to be just your standard, about us and blah, 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 so that they just read. They can actually integrate a chatbot so that you can have your prospects land on that information and get information and actually chat. So, I mean, it's just, this isn't going away, people. I'm trying to tell you. This is not going away. It's expanding. And so if you haven't thought about it or looked into it, I suggest you do. Because Thomas and I will be definitely on your heels going, why aren't you here? Because it's that amazing. So you're taking on clients. Your wife is, I'm assuming your wife stays home. She doesn't work?
Well, yeah, she works at her church, and then but we actually don't send our kids to school. I had enough public school. I mean, when I first dropped out for the first time, I was actually in 5th grade, believe it or not. I was like, this is stupid. I'm not learning anything. I remember distinctly when my math book was taken by somebody else, because at that time I was living in Tucson, and it was a bilingual school, and this Hispanic girl, she couldn't read Spanish, and so she needed an English one, and she switched me, and I'm like, I can't read that, and I'm like, this is just a stupid thing. So anyway, I left school when I was 5th grade, kind of went back eventually, did a couple of grades, but I never actually graduated high school. And so I'm, self-taught. I learned how to read, write, and spell all on my own. Anyway, it's a weird.
And so is she homeschooling, or is she just naturally?
Yeah, so that's that. Sorry, I guess
yeah.
Like, what was the question?
No, I get it.
Yeah, so she's homeschooling our kids, and that's been going really good because we have a lot more control. And then she actually ended up starting a homeschool group for other, like, her friends and stuff. So daily she's watching 15 kids or something like that. So.
If I had to do it over, my husband and I talked about this because my youngest is now in the non-traditional type of school platform as well. My 16-year-old, he's going to a virtual high school. So that he goes to that high school twice a week, and he does all of his work online, basically, and turns in all of his work online. And then he's also going to a traditional high school for marching band. So in marching season, he goes to that traditional high school just for marching band, just for that one class. And then he's also going to the local community college and taking his advanced, instead of AP classes, advanced placement classes at the high school, he's actually taking the actual college course and getting college credit for that college course while he's still in high school. So basically, I'm schlepping him to 3 different schools. Okay, so until he learns to drive. So Riley, learn how to drive soon, please.
That driver's license can't come soon enough.
No. I am absolutely here to say whatever happens naturally is what's going to happen. I'm totally cool with that. It's just a little stressful. That's all.
I get it.
But so looking at that now and that opportunity now, if I were to go back, I would totally be homeschooling, because I agree with you 100%. That's the reason we're at a virtual high school, because the traditional high school for him, maybe not for everybody, but for him, and probably for my oldest one as well, would have been, because now my oldest one is in a virtual college. So he doesn't have to actually go to the college. It's all virtual. It's all online. And so, for him, it really would have been so much better and so much easier if we were homeschooling. And I know that now. But of course, life happens and things happen for a reason at the time that you need them. And so we wouldn't have learned those amazing lessons if we hadn't gone through what we had gone through. Like middle school was the worst thing in the world. I mean, middle school's just terrible. But so kudos to you. That's fantastic, because the education you're going to be able to give your kids is way different. And to me, anyway, for my kids, it would have been so much better. So that's her job, right? Teaching your kids, that's her job. I'm not going to say she doesn't work, because
no, it's definitely work.
Amazing work.
I was happy when I could to go to work. One day she was sick and she asked me to come home, and I mean, here's, a dozen kids, and I'm like, I cannot get back to work fast enough.
Yes, I know. Yes.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yes. My husband's finding that out now, that he's doing a lot more of the household chores. Going and actually working all day and then coming home and cooking a meal.
Wow.
Is enough, right? I mean, you have to think about what that, and most, the traditional male, household where the man goes out to work and then comes home and the wife cooks the meal and she's staying home. We don't have that anymore. I work all day. He works all day. We come home and I'm like, dude, there's no way. I'm dead tired too. We're going to have to figure something out, because
You brought home the bacon. Now you can cook some too.
Hello. I'm bringing home bacon too, and I cook it. So guess what? You can too. I'll teach you. So, but it's totally different, right? It's a way harder thing.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Anything, raising kids, anything, work and business is nothing compared to raising your kids.
No, and I mean, it's interesting, because when you're in a situation where you all of a sudden are, responsible for half a dozen kids, I think you run better control on your own kids when the other kids aren't around, which is awesome, because, like my two girls, they're so loving, so helpful. Like there's no like hissy fits or anything, except when they're like tired or hungry or whatever, but that's natural.
That's for all
But
of
they're
us.
just, they're just so helpful though, which is awesome. And I don't think they would have gotten that just going to a traditional school,
No. Yeah, because it's expected and it's understood that this is what we do for the group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm sure your son will be the same way.
Yeah.
Your 4-year-old,
No, he still hasn't quite got the distinction that, hitting hurts. But he's getting there, and he's really loving too when he gets enough sleep and food.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I get it. Wow. Okay, so you are the one that goes out and has to build the business. So how has that been, trying to build the business and be a father at the same time? I mean, you were a father first, and you had to do the whole, sales stuff, which is pretty much entrepreneurship, but for somebody else's company, because you have to be on the ball and chasing people, right? I mean, it's totally different than just going and being a receptionist, where you just are a receptionist and you answer the phones and you don't really see your impact on the company. In sales, you see your impact on the company because you have to sell and you have to bring in the revenue. So it's not a huge leap to go from a sales role to an entrepreneur. You get it. You're already halfway there. So but how has that been? You had kids first before you took on that solo role. How has that changed or your ideas on revenue and sales and building this business?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of got to the point where it's like, cool, like I actually need to start providing for my kids. When you have a normal job, you have this like safety blanket, like you do when you're a kid or whatever. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's like, cool, like I actually need to feed my kids, and I need to, get them clothes, and my wife needs, new socks, and I need, to change my oil, and it becomes the importance factor comes in a lot more heavily. And so, my time with them is a bit more strategic, and then when I'm with them, it's easier to kind of shut off the entrepreneurship sort of mindset. Unless it's like a lesson I want to teach them, like, hey, this is a helpful life lesson. But like when I'm with them, that time's become a lot more valuable. It's like, cool, like let's play dolls and let's play, Tickle Monster and let's play dinosaurs. And then they have like 100% of my attention, just leave the phone aside, turn the computer laptop down and spend time with them. So.
Wow. And so that's different. So when you were in sales that you didn't feel that strongly that you could do that?
No, I mean, when I was doing another job, it was always, it was harder for me to disconnect from that role. I was always thinking about something, and then I was, because at that point, like I said, I was still like flirting with online stuff. So I'd, be kind of doodling with, or whatever, listening to a podcast while I do something, or, reading an article, or, trying this thing out, and so it was a lot harder for me to, kind of shut things down and just like, cool, like I'm a father right now. So let's be a father rather than like, 33% father, and 66% entrepreneur, or whatever.
Yeah. And so when you took the plunge and you decided to plunge in, you just went ahead and did it. And all the time that you're an entrepreneur, you're using that time for your research, for your learning, for your whatever. That's during your entrepreneur time. When you're home, you can be home.
Exactly.
That's fantastic, because that's usually the biggest struggle for most new entrepreneurs is they still let that bleed into their home time because they feel like they're spinning their wheels and doing too much at work, and they still have to do that other stuff when they get home. So good for you. You're ahead of the game.
Thank you.
Just like it sounds like you've been your entire life, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Sounds like you've been that way your entire life. So I don't think there's anything changing. So that's fantastic. Don't change that. Stay right with you. Yeah,
I won't.
Keep doing it.
Scout's honor.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So with this whole bot thing, why did you decide when you heard about it? What was it that made you decide that this was it? This whole messenger thing or chat bots. I know we talk about it. I usually use Messenger just because people don't really get the whole chat bot idea. It's very foreign. It's kind of scary. They don't know what they're talking about. But what about that made you decide, nope, this is it. This is what I'm going to focus on?
Yeah, for me, it was just the interaction and engagement that, people were posting. It's like, this new marketing channel is outperforming email. It's outperforming, a lot of traditional methods of communication. And there was some sort of graph, and it was like the amount of daily messages sent are more than, social media. Like the top 4 like messaging apps are more used than the top 4 social media platforms, including Facebook.
The
and that
entire
just completely
platform.
blew my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I did is I did a quick practical test. I pulled out my phone, looked through my apps, counted up my social media apps, counted up my messaging apps, and sure enough, I actually had more chat applications than I did social media platforms. And I was like, holy crap. So that right there blew my mind. And then an early project that I was working on, because, like I said, I was flirting with entrepreneurship. So I was listening to dozens of podcasts, and, I kind of had this like mental library of, who does what, like who to talk to for, podcasts, and who to go to for Facebook help and all these things. And I was actually attempting to put together like a Wikipedia of influencers online. So, if you need it, rather than going through, months of research, finding these people and who they are, like I was going to just have like this quick little thing. It's like, cool, like talk to, go listen to Pat Flynn if you need help on blah. And if you're into podcasts, check out Cliff Ravenscraft and that sort of thing. And but because I knew all that stuff, I knew in the chatbot world, I was desperately looking for a voice to follow, and it just was not there. So I was like, cool, I volunteer to distribute,
Yeah, find an empty space and sit in that chair. You betcha.
Yeah, and then stand up on that chair and start to shout really loud. And then what really triggered it for me is, I saw in one of the, I can't remember if it was ManyChat or Chat Fuels groups, their community groups on Facebook, somebody else said that they're going to start a podcast. And I literally dropped everything I was doing, recorded 3 episodes like that, and got it out before the night was done. And it's like, because I was thinking about it for like 2 weeks. I'm like, man, I need to do this. Man, I need to do this. And then I saw that post. I'm like, I am not going to be second to market.
That's right.
So, like, let's do this. So, and that's how it was born. I didn't even have like a name for it. And so that's where the Yakkerbot thing just came. I'm like, well, we're going to be talking a lot, and
So
rather than
yak.
Yeah, yak. So that's how that kind of got started. And then as I was doing that, I was talking to some really interesting people. I'm like, man, this stuff's so cool. Like, I actually want to go and help people with it. So, I learned how to talk to people about bots and explain it to them. Because public awareness is just not there when it comes to bots. I still think we're another 2 years or so before it's like really like mainstream, like Facebook is and Twitter is.
Right.
I think once that hits, like everybody and their dog is gonna, have some sort of chat bot.
Yep. But in the meantime, then I'll move to the next thing because I really like this space right now. I really love knowing what we know and being able to be on the cutting edge, because it still is the cutting edge. It still is changing drastically. It's
my gosh, weekly.
Yeah, it's
exciting.
That's the whole reason I'm here. Okay, because I get bored fast. I get bored very easily. And so, yeah, totally. That's exactly it. So many chat and chat fuel are providing enough squirrels for me to chase just right here. Right. That I don't have to go outside and chase some squirrel out in email land or in Facebook land or in blog land or whatever. I can stay in chatbots and chase all the squirrels I want because they're constantly coming in front of me. Right. So I love it. I absolutely love it. I have to tell you, I was just asked, I think about a week ago, to be a co-host on a bot podcast. I'm like,
nice.
Whoa, what's going on here? I don't know. I've already got one of those. Not a bot podcast, but a podcast. So I don't know if I can add another one to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's crazy stuff. So it's just way too much fun. So again, anyone who hears my voice, get in now. Jump in the rocket ship with us, and we'll make room for you. Don't worry. It's a huge rocket.
We're building it as we go.
It's a huge rocket. The fuel is just waiting to be lit, and we're jumping. We're getting out of the Earth's atmosphere because that's really where it's going. So you really need to jump on. I'm telling you, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. What I love about it, though, is the community members are just so helpful. If you have a challenge or something that you're running into, you can post it into the Chat Fuel or Mini Chat group, and half a dozen people will respond really quick, and it's like, like I was trying to do some stuff with webinars and chatbots, and that's actually how I met Pat. Like, it was just he's like, yeah, let me help you with that. I'm like, cool, I can't pay you, but he's like, no, it's fine. I want to work on this too. So, just help me out, give me some stuff that I need. And, I'm like, cool, like, here you go. And he's like, I'm like, So.
Yeah, webinars, I got to tell you, that's the number one template that I use. That's the number one thing that people come to me to help them build is a webinar funnel. Awesome. And it is, oh my gosh, it is so crazy, the conversions that are so much higher in the chatbot. I have one client who she's doing weekly lead magnets, weekly freebies that she's giving away on her Facebook page to get people into her funnel. And then once they get into their funnel, we take them to an evergreen webinar. And the attendance on the webinar has increased more than 30% from Messenger.
Which is
huge. And then because that's the number one problem with webinars, right? Nobody goes to them anymore. They sign up for them, but they don't go.
Guilty.
So me too. Me too. And so the increase in attendance is one thing, but then the conversion. So email conversion is maybe 0.5%.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. But in Messenger, we're getting anywhere from 3% conversion to 29%.
Yeah.
Depending on the lead magnet, depending on the thing that brought them into the funnel. It is crazy. It is just nuts because this is the way, it really was just a bridge. No one had built the bridge between what we need, which is the thing on the webinar, and email. So everybody was talking about email, but our email was so dead because there was so much spam and junk in it that we never wanted to go there. So we never actually got the information to get to the webinar that we needed to get to buy the stuff we need. So now we have that bridge. That bridge in communication is in Messenger. So Messenger now, because we're there, we pay attention. We love to chat there. Now we can go from Messenger straight to that webinar, and it's just we're providing the things that people want and need.
Yeah, totally.
Because they communicate there. So yeah, I am totally sold. If you can't tell.
Preach.
Right? Webinars. If you do them and you're not on Messenger, what is wrong with you? I'm going to smack you.
Seriously.
Because they're the easiest. Absolute easiest. It's templated now. I've done so many of them. It's a template. We just drop in the new copy, drop in the new images, send them to the link. We're good.
Awesome.
And you convert.
Oh.
Yes. Yes. All right. So I'll get off my soapbox. But you know what's going to happen, Power Parents? And we call ourselves Power Parents, Thomas, because if we've been through potty training, business is nothing. We got business.
So true.
Right? So we have the power already to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, totally.
So we are Power Parents.
That's awesome.
We have plugged in. All right. So, all right, Power Parents, you know that once I talk to someone who's also as passionate about chatbots and Messenger as I am, the conversation's gone. It's just going to go there, and you just either follow us or you can just, hit the stop button. I'm cool with that. I have no problem with it. So, Thomas, is there any piece of advice, somebody who's out there, whether it's in chatbots or whether it's just in general entrepreneurship, they're still on the fence, all right? I don't know why after 206 episodes they would still be on the fence, but they might be. So, they're rocking back and forth and they're trying to figure out, maybe they've only listened to us maybe 2 episodes and they're like, oh yeah, I want to do this whole entrepreneur thing, but I got kids and I'm not sure. And they're still rocking back and forth, not sure. Is there any piece of advice you'd give them about whether they should jump into this whole rocket ship with us?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes, jump in because there's so much opportunity. But when you're raising a kid, it drives me nuts when parents have kids and they're like, they get into everything and they're tearing it apart and they're getting hurt. And I'm like, why are you putting them in an environment where they can hurt themselves? Like they don't actually know better. But you do, and you can actually control what environment you're putting them in. So for me, it's like put yourself in an environment where you're getting the help that you need, the tools that you need to actually be successful. Start talking to other entrepreneurs. Listen to podcasts like this one. Go and put yourself in a situation where you're actually able to grow as an individual rather than, being content with, what you currently have and you're not very happy. So, that would be my advice.
And you won't get hurt.
Yeah.
Put yourself in that environment where you won't get hurt. We'll take care of you. We promise.
Yeah.
We will take care of you, right? We take care of each other, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we're all wanting the same thing, which is, growth and happiness and more time for ourselves and our family. It's like, that's our goals. So you find people with like-minded goals and things go a lot better.
And they'll support you. You got it. Perfect. All right. You got the short answer. You got the long answer from a guy who definitely has been there and figured out how to not get hurt in many different ways. Thank you for sharing that. I have so much, I had total respect for you to begin with, but it just deepens that respect and it deepens my reasoning why I am attracted to staying connected with you.
Awesome. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Besides just us having fun and joking around, we do that all the time. But besides that, there's a deeper understanding. So I really appreciate you sharing that and joining us on the show.
Thank you.
To get powered up for your day, just go to parentepowered.com and listen to the over 200 episodes we have so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.